research buried in classified archives, and all personnel sworn to silence. But the question is, why would they shut down the most powerful tool they ever had? According to the researchers, they didn't shut it down because it stopped working. They shut it down because of what it was telling them. Remember that convergence point we talked about? According to insiders, what the looking glass device showed them was this. No matter what they did, no matter how they manipulated events, no matter what moves they made, they lose. The timeline convergence meant their ability to control the future was ending. The script they've been writing for humanity was being overwritten by something bigger, whether you want to call it collective consciousness, divine intervention, or just the natural evolution of humanity waking up. They could see themselves losing control, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Dan Burish claimed that the looking glass showed a future where humanity awakens to the truth, where the old systems of control collapse, where people reclaim their sovereignty. And past 2012, that future became inevitable. They couldn't rewrite the script anymore. What happens next is something that might actually explain why your reality feels broken. The elites, who had been using Project Looking Glass for decades, suddenly found themselves staring at an unavoidable future where they lose everything. So what would you do if you had unlimited money, unlimited resources, and unlimited desperation? You'd try to break out of the timeline itself. That brings us to the Large Hadron Collider. CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, operates the most powerful and expensive scientific instrument ever built, a 17-mile ring buried underground on the Swiss-French border. When it's running at full capacity, it smashes protons together at nearly the speed of light. The official story? It's for studying the fundamental building blocks of reality, understanding particle physics, discovering things like the quote-unquote God particle. But many people believe that CERN was actually built to manipulate the fabric of reality itself. Think about the timeline. Early 2000s. Project Looking Glass shows timeline convergence. All futures lead to their defeat. 2008, CERN is completed and begins initial tests. 2009 to 2010, first major high-energy collisions. The Mandela effect suddenly enters public consciousness. 2012, CERN announces discovery of the God particle. The exact year Looking Glass couldn't see past. Coincidence? Or a last-ditch attempt to alter the locked timeline by literally smashing reality at the quantum level. So here's the theory. CERN was built as a timeline weapon, a last desperate attempt by the people in control to break free from the future that Project Looking Glass had locked them into. By creating extreme quantum conditions, they hoped to create a fork in the timeline, a branching point, an escape route. They couldn't rewrite the future with Looking Glass anymore, so they tried to shatter the present and create a new timeline branch where they could regain control. And here's the thing. It might have partially worked. When we look at things like the Mandela effect, it isn't our collective memory failing us. It's evidence that something in our timeline definitely shifted. But even if CERN successfully merged timelines or created a branch point, it didn't save them. Because the Looking Glass was right. No matter what reality they jump to, no matter what timeline they create, the endpoint is the same. You can't use quantum physics to escape a locked timeline convergence. You can only create chaos in the present, which is exactly what they did. The Mandela effect isn't proof they succeeded, it's proof they tried and failed. And in the process, they made reality unstable enough that we can all feel the glitches. Another sign that they are manipulating the fabric of reality is our shared experience of time itself. Does it seem like last year flew by in the blink of an eye? You're not imagining it. Because it's not just you, it's everyone. Time is accelerating for all of us. And there are reasons for that that go way deeper than just getting older. Mainstream science tells us that time appears to speed up as we age because of how our brains process information and create memories. When you're 5 years old, 1 year represents 20% of your entire life. It feels massive. But when you're 50, 1 year is only 2% of your life. Same amount of time, but proportionally, it feels much shorter. But what if time itself is actually speeding up? Some researchers claim that the resonance frequency of Earth, the Schumann resonance, has been increasing over the past few decades. This resonance is essentially Earth's heartbeat, and some believe it affects human consciousness and our perception of time. Maybe this is related to the timeline convergence that Project Looking Glass predicted. What if after 2012, reality became less stable? What if we're living in a world where timelines are still merging, still fluctuating, and our consciousness is trying to keep up with multiple versions of events happening simultaneously? And what if that was part of the strategy? If there's an inevitable awakening happening, if they know they are losing control, then what would their strategy be? Distraction. Constant, overwhelming distraction. Think about what's happened since 2012. Social media exploded and became addictive by design. News cycles became 24/7 outrage machines. Entertainment became endless streaming content. Every spare moment filled with notifications, alerts, and dopamine hits. If you're constantly scrolling, constantly consuming, constantly reacting, you don't have time to think. You don't have time to question. You don't have time to wake up. The acceleration of time you're feeling, part of it is psychological, but part of it might be intentional. Keep everyone moving so fast they can't pause to see what's really happening. Research shows that when you're in a state of constant digital stimulation, your brain doesn't form deep memories. Days blur together, years disappear. You feel like time is flying by because you're not actually living, you're consuming. And there's one more piece of the puzzle that you've probably noticed, and that's the cultural recycling loop. For nearly a century, pop culture followed a predictable, natural heartbeat known as the 20-year nostalgia cycle. It was simple. It takes exactly 20 years for a child to grow up, enter their peak creative years, and begin recreating the world of their youth. In the 70s, we had Grease and Happy Days, a desperate reach back to the 50s. In the 2000s, we had the 80s neon explosion. It was how cultural memory worked, and there was a rhythm to it. But around the year 2012, that rhythm stopped. We are no longer producing original stories. We are producing echoes. We are currently living through a total collapse of creative novelty. Every major motion picture is a reboot, a remake, or a sequel of something created 40 years ago.